Patriots.
Giving a voice to the voiceless. We share the stories behind our freedoms and the ultimate sacrifice of those who protect us all. This is Patriots Inside the Wire.
Patriot is someone who was willing to give his life for his country and served honorably in Iraq.
Beautiful thing to see the family and friends come together and honor his life and his service to our country.
Great to see you guys out here. This is awesome, really.
Welcome to the Patriots Inside the Wire broadcast, hosted by Gold Star mom, Tracy Two-Step.
Welcome to the show, Patriots Inside the Wire, tonight with the Tree of Valor, Miss Lori Egerter, and I'm here, Tracy Two-Step. Patriots Inside the Wire. We have a special story for you tonight, a special show and radio. Again, we are a network broadcast, podcast, and radio station. Shout out to you all out there. Please share, grab your friends, your loved ones, your dog, your cat, your mom, your dad. Share this so that they can get in here and engage with us live. If you have questions, you may have a comment. We have a special guest in here tonight. Lori, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
You're doing good. You look great. They need to come to the YouTube channel so they can see this over here at Patriots Inside the Wire. Check it out.
You're in Texas, so we're worried about you.
What's that?
Oh, you're in Texas, so we're worried about you. How far are you away from?
I'm not that far, but I'm okay. It's more about everyone else and people trying to pull together. There's a lot of teams out there that we're sending out our hearts and prayers to, boots on the ground that are used to dealing with things like this, that it's a tragedy. It's, my heart just goes out, but it has definitely been something that Texans, especially that much water, everything that's happening at camp at that time, the little kids, it's about all lives matter. So it's gut wrenching is what it is. And
I'm just so embarrassed because we've never, except for that one time, right? It's the only time we've ever met. The rest of our friendship has just been this, right? So I can't place you in the state, like in my mind where you are. And I thought, my God, I didn't even check on her. What a terrible friend.
Well, you're a very good person, I'll tell you that, because we do talk a lot. We do have our exchanges. We may talk a lot of business. That's why I said we need to catch up. It's been a lot of work and less of getting to know each other again. So I'm just glad that you've crossed my path and everything that you're doing at the Tree of Valor, and that Patriots Inside the Wire is able to showcase that and our lovely guests that we have. I know that you have someone tonight that you know, and that is Lieutenant Jason Ford, who has joined us. And what we'd like to do is that you tell me, Lori, a little bit, and then let's bring up our guest.
Well, I feel like Jason's story is just so remarkable that there's it's hard to introduce him in a way that you can even appreciate what a magnificent human he is, because his personality is larger than life. It really is. But he is truly a walking miracle. That is the best thing I can say about him. Is his story is remarkable. And I told people, if you need to be inspired or you need to have hope, you need to listen to this show, because he shouldn't even be here.
Okay.
So you haven't even got all the goods. So this will really
we're normally get it from him
a little bit, but this is amazing.
Is something to give some inspiration, and this is a miraculous story.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. So we're going to bring up Jason Ford, and we'll let him tell us how he'd like to be addressed, because I know he's a veteran. We thank all those who serve and have served always within our shows and programs. So we thank you for tuning in. Please share and join and get others to do the same, so we can get out these stories, the true stories that are out there of our actual heroes that are right here with us on Patriots Inside the Wire. Welcome to the show, Jason Ford. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm great, and I'm honored to be here with you.
We're honored to have you. Now, Jason, my biggest question, how do you want me? Do I call you Jason? Do I say Lieutenant?
You can call me Jason.
Okay.
You can call me
All right.
Jason. Yes, that's
Well,
totally fine.
okay. And tell me a little bit, Jason, so maybe we do get an idea out there. That's a good way to start. So you're a veteran and you were, tell us your rank, MOS, and how you got in that journey.
Well, my story is that, and I'll say it fairly quickly because it tends to be long. But when I was a little kid, I always dreamt about being a Navy fighter pilot. Then when I got into high school, it was sports and girls. So I didn't think about the Navy. College, sports and girls. Didn't think about the Navy. I already had a job when I graduated from college. And it was near an airport, so I got my private pilot's license. And then I remembered, oh, the Navy, that's what I want to do. So I went down to the Navy recruiter's office and spoke to the recruiter and said, hi, I want to be a Navy fighter pilot. And the guy said, all right, slow down there, Tiger. Wait, you need to do some testing. So he put me through all the testing and I did fine. But this happened to be after the first Top Gun movie came out. So what they told me was that given that fact, the competition had spiked, and so I was on hold. I was not rejected nor accepted. I was on hold, and I was sitting there for a couple of weeks thinking, I don't want to just wait, and it possibly for nothing. So I thought, what else might I like to do? And I thought, well, to be an attorney, you just need to be able to stand up in front of people and argue something logically. I can do that. So I took the LSAT, applied to law school, got accepted. As the first day of law school was approaching, I would call the Navy about once a week and say, any change? Am I accepted? And they would say, nope, still on hold, still on hold. So I started law school. Went through the first semester and everything was fine. Halfway through finals of that first semester, I was walking through my little law school apartment and I looked at the telephone on the kitchen counter. And all of a sudden, for the first time in whatever it had been, 4 or 5 months, I thought, oh, the Navy. I haven't talked to the Navy for so long. So I pulled my wallet out and I had a little business card of the Navy recruiter in there. I called and said, hi, may I please speak with Lieutenant? I don't remember what his name is. So let's say Lieutenant Johnson. The guy who answered the phone said, no, Lieutenant Johnson's not here anymore. He's now selling vacuum cleaners. Are you calling because you want to buy a vacuum cleaner? I said, no. I said, this is Jason Ford. And I applied like 4 or 5 months ago and I was on hold. I'm just calling in order to see if there's any update. And he said, you said your name was Jason Ford? I said, yes. And he said, well, I happen to have your file open in front of me right now. And Lieutenant Johnson just had needed to make 2 more phone calls, which he didn't make. I have now made those 2 phone calls, and I'm expecting to hear back within the next half hour as to whether you're accepted or not. And I said, yeah, right. Yeah, okay. That's not true. And he goes, no, really? So I said, all right, fine. Here's my little telephone number at my little apartment. I said, fine, call me, whatever. Well, 15 minutes later, he called me back. He said, congratulations, you're accepted. So I thought, all right, what do I do? Well, I'll shorten the story now because it gets kind of long. But since I was accepted into the Navy, but I had a choice to make. Do I stay in law school and say no thanks to the Navy, or do I do the Navy and get out of law school? Well, I thought, since the washout rate in the Navy was greater than 50%, I thought I'm going to take a leave of absence from law school in case I'm in that greater than 50% chance that washes out, then I can just go back to law school. So that's what I did. Well, I didn't wash out, of AOCS. It was AOCS, Aviation Officer Candidate School, which is a 14-week program where they really test you, and more than, I mean, I don't know what percent, maybe 60% of my class washed out. But I made it through that. And then I was in primary flight training, and law school called me back and said, it's time for you to return. I said, no, thanks, not coming back. So I went through primary flight training, loving every second of it. Every second. I loved it. I did really well. So I got jets. Went through intermediate flight training at Naval Air Station Chase Field in Texas, in Beeville, and carrier qualified. Landing aboard a carrier, which was wonderful.
Just
Got
like
into
Top,
what's that?
just like Top Gun.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Just like Top Gun.
Oh,
Yeah.
But then into advanced flight training, flying the A4, which is nicknamed the Scooter. It's really fantastic airplane. And I was doing really well. Top 10% of my class. It was either going to be F-14s or F-18s, which was my dream. I had my dream in my hand. I had just 20 flights to go. So about 1 month, I was standing next to my car, pulled off the side of the road at 2:00 in the morning on December 27th of 1990. A drunk driver came along at 100 miles an hour in a big Oldsmobile Delta 88, tried to follow my parked car, smashed it into my head. So thank God I'm hard-headed. It did not crack my skull, but it sure rattled my brain. I was in a coma for 14 days. When I was brought to the hospital, they called my parents and said, your son's been in a very severe auto accident. We don't believe he's going to be alive when the sun comes up. 14 days later, I opened my eyes. I didn't speak for 2 days. Once I started speaking, I wasn't making any sense. And the left side of my body was completely paralyzed. So I had to relearn how to walk, how to talk, everything. And I had the maturity level of a little toddler. So yes, everything was a challenge, but to me, I was supremely grateful that I was alive. And I just had every little goal. I had all these little goals in front of me, and those were everything. For example, one of the two examples. One, the scariest moment of my life. Much scarier than approaching an aircraft carrier at whatever the airspeed is in a jet to catch a trap. Much scarier than that was when I was first told. See, I'm getting chills even just telling you. I was told by the nurse that I could use the walker and go into the shower by myself. As I was using the walker to get into the shower, it scared me to death because I saw the tiles going up the walls and on the floor, and there was that bar on the right, and I thought, if I fall, I'm dead. Period. So that was the scariest moment of my life. And then challenge, like they said, walk on this beam. It went about 6 feet straight ahead, and then it turned at 45-degree angle at 6 feet, and it was only about 3 inches off the floor. But it was my task to walk on that beam and then make the 45-degree angle and walk on the beam. I kept falling off. I just kept falling off. I get on the beam, I'd fall off. Get on the beam, fall off. I was just thinking, damn it, I'm going to conquer you. So challenges like that. So then the Navy said I was 100% disabled, unfit for duty, meaning that they would pay me 100% of my salary for the rest of my life, but I was out.
Okay, now this is what I want him to stop. I want him to stop
Go
at this
ahead.
part.
Okay.
Because you're going at a rapid pace, and I want people to appreciate and to take in everything you've already said, because the version of this is you're telling it to make sure we get it in, and you have plenty of time. But that is such Tracy and I always say, we can kind of see who's watching this on social media, but next Wednesday when it's on the radio, on all these different radio stations, you have no idea who's going to hear this. You'll probably never know. So the impact, the opportunity for the impact that you have at this moment and hear my heart when I say this, for veterans who cannot see their way out of the dark. Okay. The very
people in general.
The very last words that
people.
you said were, "Don't piss on my tire, man."
Right. Well,
Remember
that's yeah. Okay. I can put some little details in.
So my point in telling you this is that this was huge, Jason. Like, you washed through that God love you like you were taking a bath. Like, this story is so thick. There's so much depth to it, and he doesn't necessarily need to give all the bits of it, but I just want people to look at him and realize, number one, he shouldn't be here, right? Like, he really shouldn't be here. And number two, if he wouldn't have worked hard, if his family, and especially his mom, she was very creative, his friends were creative, and the things that they did, right, to help bring him back and to help him to come back to who he was. I want people to think about who are your friends that maybe you've forgotten about, that maybe you're needed and you don't know you're needed, right? Because everybody, if you're here, you have a purpose, right? And they saved him. Obviously, he did the work of it, but you could have chosen to not do it, Jason. You could have been a slacker. You could have just, I mean, you're brilliant. And and the rest of the story that he's going to tell is just head banging to me. Like, I just want to bang my head on the desk. So I want to get this part of the story. I just want people to appreciate you at this place before you go into the next one, because it is.
Okay.
Well, let me say something here. So you're live on Patriots Inside the Wire with Jason Ford here, and that was Lori from the Tree of Valor speaking. Here at Patriots Inside the Wire, Jason Ford is explaining to us, not only did you go to law school, like that is pretty big to just go in and you're in law school, and now you decided you're joining and you're in flight school and you're doing all this fabulous work to serve our country as a veteran. And while you're serving active duty, you mentioned a car with a drunk driver literally hit you, struck you, took you out from the world, literally, not even sure that you would live. And now here you are learning how to do everything all over. And I can only imagine not only the physical, the mental and emotional parts that come along with that, even just as a mother. You mentioned your mother. And I want to say, thank God that you're here, number one. Number two, these people that drive that should not be driving, you just struck something here at this show that I don't think you even knew. So we have some things in common, and I have to tell you that I'm glad you're here, and I would love to hear more from you for sure. And I think you're doing great because you have a lot to fit in there. So I do want you to just keep going like it works for you and the truth.
Slow down a little bit.
Oh, no, you're fine. I just really wanted people to appreciate how hard you worked.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And there are so many details that I'm not putting in there because the story is very long. Some little, I'll insert some of the little things I think that you're referring to, Lori. Like my mom came out there, so I get choked up, and she would put a lollipop in my mouth and keep it there because that was a sensation that I had. And so she was trying to activate senses while I'm in a coma. And a friend from college, a girlfriend from college, sent a cassette tape with songs that she knew that I loved and her voice on there. So my mom would play that. You know, that's the audio. My mom doing the taste sensation. So yeah, and I had roommates, housemates that came down, and while I'm laying there in a coma, they would raise my arms and legs, and they told me that they would tickle my right foot, and I would pull it up. I'm laying there in a coma, but I would pull my knee up, and they would tickle my left foot, and it would just stay there because the left side of my body was paralyzed because I got hit on the right side of the head. And
Jason, I have to ask this question.
Go ahead.
The person that did this, did they get what they deserve?
They were 21 years old. It was their third DUI, even though they were only 21 years old. And they ended up serving only 4 months in prison. No, what they told me was the reason for that was at the time, this was December 27th of 1990. Their laws against drunk driving were a little more slack. So, in fact, I think I was told that anybody could have open alcohol in a car other than the driver at that time. And so this guy got 4 months in prison.
I
If I had
believe it
died,
because I know the
if I
story.
if I had died, obviously that would have been, I don't know, manslaughter.
In
Or,
some cases, and then they still don't go to jail, even in a homicide manslaughter. So
right,
you're hitting on something right now that I don't even think you knew. But that world right there is one that I am in my foundation and everything in my whole being. I'm glad that I'm talking to you because listen, when it says miracle, it is a miracle. So, and your mother, when you struck that one, I felt it here and I knew what you were talking about. We have something in common. Mine is not here, yours is. And so I thank you for the raw truth, the raw emotion for those out there. I think what Lori was trying to pull out is that no matter who you are and what is going on, there is a lot going on with other people too. And if someone can overcome something, then let's listen to your story and understand how to overcome and what you did. And we
right.
can learn from that. And so I'm going to let you pick it back up
Okay.
and let you tell me, and your caption there, don't let them tell you you can't do it. At the end,
Exactly.
I'm going to ask you that.
Well, Tracy, one example was I was early in the recovery. I was in a hospital bed. I was paralyzed the left side of my body. And one of my buddies from flight training came to visit me. And we were having a conversation. And I don't know how badly I was doing in the conversation because I couldn't find words. But we're having a conversation. And then all of a sudden he stopped and he said, Jason, he said, do you realize what you were doing just 2 months ago? And I looked at him and I said, yeah, do you realize my ticker is still ticking? You see, my priority was not, woe is to me because I was flying jets for the Navy. I had my dream in my hand, and now I can't do that. No, 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 no. My priority was this happened to me. How do I fix it? How do I get back? And when the Navy said I was 100% disabled, unfit for duty, that meant that they would pay me 100% of my salary for the rest of my life, even though I was out. I didn't owe them anything. And the majority of the other patients I was in BIRU, Brain Injury Rehabilitation Unit. The majority of the other patients there were fighting to raise their disability rating because they got whatever 30% or 40% or 50% or whatever. They were trying to raise it. The Navy gave me 100%. And I said, no, no, I did not join the Navy for the money. I joined the Navy to serve my country and fly for the Navy. Period. So that's the one of the things that I want to communicate to people is, as I said in that quote, don't let them say you can't do it. Many people, many times said to me, no, you can't do it. Everything. I was stationed at BIRU and I'm surrounded by all these other brain injured patients. And they're all whining and complaining and crying and moaning and all this. And I'm in there. I was like a little kid again. Like I told you, I was psychologically, my maturity level was like a little kid. So when I was in eighth grade, I used to do, 150, well, you didn't know, but I used to do 150 push-ups and 150 sit-ups every night before going to bed. So there I am in this hospital, BIRU, I'm doing push-ups and sit-ups before going to bed. And I was surrounded by all these people who were complaining all the time. That was not my attitude at all. My attitude was, what's the next thing I need to do in order to get better and get out of here? What's the next challenge? So I asked, I said, I can take the train. They said I cannot drive. No way. So I said, I want to take the train up to San Francisco where I lived. My dad was up there, living in a house up there. And I could take the train up there. My dad would pick me up at the train station, drive me home. And then in the morning, he would drive me back to the train station. I would take the train back. So I asked them at Byru, can I do that? And they said, no. I said, why not? They said, because you're not going to be able to find the train station. And even if you do find the train station, you're not going to know which direction to take the train. And I said, well, let me try. And they said, okay, well then here's a quarter. This is back when a phone call was a quarter. They said, here's a quarter. When you get lost, find a payphone, call us, and we'll come pick you up. Well, I found the train station and I knew which way to take it up to San Francisco. I took the train, so I successfully took the train back and forth for I don't know how long I was doing that for. That's what's not clear in my memory. But I did that until I finally was able to drive and all that. So
Good for you. Good for you. It's like
So
you
my
didn't know any
message-
better. So
right. Well, my message to people is don't let people tell you that you cannot do something. You can. It's up to you. Do it. In fact, another time I was talking with this doctor and I said, doctor, do you think I'll ever be able to fly for the Navy? And he went like this. I'm standing right here talking to him and he just goes, he looks away from me. It seemed like whatever, 10 seconds or longer. He just staring away from me. And then he looked back at me and he said, no. And my thought was, yeah, watch me. In fact, that's another good quote. Yeah, watch me. So when people tell you you can't do something, prove them wrong. Do it.
Mm-hmm. I like this. I like your attitude. I do have to say this out there to everybody. There's distracted driving. There's drunk driving. There's all sorts of things that you should not be doing behind the wheel of a car, and this ridiculous laws of what happens to people that do it has got to be fixed. That says two-step act over there on our show for a reason, and it's one of the laws that will help this very subject. Lori, you didn't tell me this part. It will definitely help something I'm working on, because I'm glad you're here. I can't even imagine you, and the fight in you is definitely there. I see it. You're inspiring me right now. I don't get into my story, but I just want you to know I almost didn't make it for a reason, and I couldn't talk, and I used to sing and things. I was like, I don't care if I ever sing again. I want to be able to talk. Like, I want to be able to get up and go say hi down the steps to my kid. I want to be healthy. I want to be able to say hello out loud. So Jason, the shower part, that's important. It doesn't sound like it to other people, but I'm telling you, anybody out there that's listening that's going to understand these pieces that are very, very difficult for some people to just be able to get up and go take that shower, and the little steps that you had to do. Those are massive steps. When you're put in that situation, you've either got to make a decision right then. Okay, do I lay down? And my quote was, do I lay down and grieve then? Or do I get up and go do something about it?
Right.
I got up.
The other thing, Tracy, that as I think you will find important, I want people to realize this is super important. Driving a car, you are handling a lethal weapon. Some people say, oh, guns are so dangerous. Guns, oh, they're terrible. A car, whenever you're driving a car, that is a lethal weapon. It can kill somebody instantly. So if
Jason,
you are paying attention to your cell phone, then oh, that's so wrong. Or if you're driving inebriated, drunk, that's so wrong.
So Jason, the part
You're
you
go ahead.
this is important because I didn't tell you this because I like this to be really.
Everyone's going to think that this was set up.
I know because
and it
Jason
wasn't.
doesn't know this, and you don't know that he doesn't know. Jason, the reason that Tracy is a Gold Star mom.
Well, I'd be careful there.
I can't even barely say it now.
Yeah, don't let's not get into that.
No,
Let's
but
not get into that.
he needs to know that she
on back
loves her
channels.
son.
On back channels, we
All
will
right.
talk, Jason.
Tell me later.
about what
Tell me
I'm
later.
working
I'm
on.
very curious. I would
Yeah.
very much love to know.
It has to do with
the
your
story.
message. He is correct. When I get up in front of senators or anyone and I speak, I say a car is a lethal weapon. That
Good.
is not just a driving tool. It is a major weapon.
And
You have
that's why
no
she's
clue
a
the
Gold Star mom.
statistics. I know the stats. How many
And-
people it takes out a day
Yeah.
is unbelievable. And it is my mission to change and work on this law. And I have been working on it for quite some time. And it is because it is something that has affected my family and took away someone. So
I
I'm
want to
glad
make
you're
it.
here.
I want to make it clear to everybody, anybody who's listening. I did not know that at all.
I didn't
So
know
this was no.
either.
This was no setup at all. Talk about wow, what a coincidence. You know, I
This is
didn't know
more
that at
than a
all.
coincidence day. I don't know what's happening today, but I've had an interesting day, Jason. And just having you on, speaking of this, they'll go, there's no way she set that up. And I'm like,
And I didn't. I did.
Not
I
at
mean,
all.
I didn't tell
I
either one
had
of you.
no clue. And I'm glad it's you. I really needed to hear you too. So this isn't just about the other people. I'm so happy that I'm listening to you. You're still here. And that experience, you talking about your mom and the sensories and that's a big deal. But the car, when you said that's a lethal weapon, I am also curious because not only am I glad that you're here, I'm wondering how was the Navy to you? Because so many people have their opinions, right?
All right.
We have to
There's more of a
respect it.
story that there's more of a
That's
story
all
there. That's
I
the
knew there'd be
continuation of
something.
that's the continuation of the story that I was telling
I
rapidly.
thought so.
Yeah. All right. So the Navy said I was 100% disabled, unfit for duty, meaning I'm out, but they pay me 100% of my salary for the rest of my life. And I said no. So I wrote them whatever it was called, a letter of rebuttal. And their response to that was, oh, I mean, they're surprised that somebody who's offered 100% is fighting it. So they said, okay, 30% disabled, unfit for duty, just reducing the amount of money that they would pay me, but I was still out. So I said no to that too. I had to go to a physical evaluation board. And that's a funny story too. If you want me to tell you about it, I can do that. But so I went to the physical evaluation board. Wait, let me tell you a little bit of that story. They they had said it was going to be down in San Diego, and they said I would have to present my case to this board, physical evaluation board, and they would assign me an attorney, a naval attorney. Well, I had a family friend who was an attorney, current attorney, but he was a retired Navy admiral. And he flew the A4, same airplane that I was flying. He had flown it in Vietnam. So I called him, Admiral Peck. I called him. I said, Admiral Peck, sir, would you be willing to represent me against the physical evaluation board in San Diego? And he said, sure. So we flew down together. We walk in, and there's this Navy, female Navy lieutenant. She's the attorney that would have been assigned to me. And when I walk in, she says, oh, and I was an ensign. I was Lieutenant JG at that time, which is the second rank of officer. When I was hit by the drunk driver, this side, I was an ensign, first rank of officer. And then when I woke up from a coma, I was promoted to Lieutenant JG, the second rank of officer. So I'm a Lieutenant JG, and this lieutenant attorney says, oh, well, there's no way, you should not have fought that 100% to bring it down to 30%. If I were you, I would turn tails and get out of here as fast as possible and don't look back, just accept that 30%. And Admiral Peck, standing next to me, he said, Lieutenant, I'm Admiral Peck, and I will be representing Lieutenant Ford. So sit down. And she was just like, oh. That was great.
Yeah.
So we walked in and we won. So they said, okay, fit for duty. I said, great, thank you. Strap me back in the cockpit then. Let me go flying. They said, no, we found you fit for duty, not fit for aviation. I said, okay, fine. How do I get found fit for aviation? They said, talk to NAMI, that's Naval Aeronautical Medical Institute, the kingpin of naval aviation medicine in Pensacola, Florida. So I called them and they said, have a flight physical. So I had a flight physical, passed everything until at the end of the flight physical, they're asking me, the flight surgeon is asking me all these questions, that the answer to which is no, all these different questions. Finally, he gets to, have you sustained a loss of consciousness? And I said, yes. He looks up at me and he goes, you have sustained a loss of consciousness? I said, yes, sir. He said, for how long? He was expecting me to say 1 second, I got punched in a bar or something. I said, 14 days. He said, oh, you are NPQ, not physically qualified. I said, come on, sir, what do you mean? I passed everything. And he goes, oh, no, 14 days loss of consciousness. No, you are NPQ. Well, I left there and I was being tested and treated by a neurosurgeon in San Francisco, Captain Pitlick. Captain is the 6th rank of officer, right below Admiral, neurosurgeon in San Francisco. And he said to me, Jason, I think the Navy is making a really big mistake. If it were up to me, I would strap myself in the back seat of an F-14 and go for a flight with you at the controls today. I said, sir, would you be willing to put that in writing? And he looked at me like, might be the end of my career, but I believe it so strongly that I will. So he wrote a very strong letter to whom? The CNO, the Chief of Naval Operations, the highest ranking officer in the Navy. At the time, it was Admiral Kelso. You know, something, I know the pictures speak louder than words. This, I happen to have this. This is a picture of my car after it got hit.
Oh.
So if I had been inside that car, there is no way I would have lived.
And it's a miracle your friend was completely unscathed.
Right. It was a very big bang behind him, scared the heck out of him, but everything, the cars missed him. It hit me. And you, Laura, you referred to that quote. I'm writing a book now. And
Well,
Lori
answer
was helping.
this. What happened with the NPQ? Did you get back in?
Oh, well, listen, thank you for trying to keep me on track here. The neurosurgeon wrote the letter to the CNO, the Chief of Naval Operations. He gave it to the Surgeon General for the Navy, the highest ranking medical officer. He formulated a group of high ranking medical officers. They discussed my case and wrote me a letter saying, okay, you remain stationed ashore for 3 years from the date of the injury, then report to NAMI, and we will test you. If you pass the test, we will put you back in flight training. I said, great, window of opportunity. Career killer, but a window of opportunity. So I did that. I was stationed at Whiting Field, Naval Air Station Whiting Field, which is in Milton, Florida. It's only about a 30-minute drive from Pensacola, Florida. That's where I went through primary, but I'm there.
So I need to interrupt you. I have to ask you this because this is so important. So like your mental health at this point, clearly you're a different bird, right? But some people at any one of those no's would have just plummeted because they just would have. So now you're told you have to wait 3 years as one of them, because I know the rest of the story, right? So now you're told you have to wait 3 years.
It was to give my brain time to recover.
Right. But you're told that once you do this, then you'll be good to go. Right. Because
then they would test me.
Right. But the ending of the story is so crazy. This is why I need people to make sure they're following this, because I know the story. Right. So he's already told no so many times. And every time he doesn't sit down for it. Right. Maybe, that part of the story you're not telling me. Maybe you plummeted for a bit and came back up and whatever. But it seemed like you just kept saying, hell with this. And you just kept right? So
Yeah.
now you're told you're supposed to wait 3 years and then you can come back and be retested. So you're saying you waited the 3 years?
I did. I was stationed at Naval Air Station Whiting Field, and I was the partnership and education officer, and I was an assistant schedules officer. But something that, looking back on it, I see that I was crazy. I played lacrosse in college, in high school and college. In lacrosse, in college, I was MVP and leading scorer on the lacrosse team. So I loved lacrosse, but that's a contact sport, and they had a lacrosse team on base at Naval Air Station Whiting Field, so I joined it. I was playing lacrosse while in the first 3 years of recovery from my severe closed head brain injury. That was not smart. That was not smart.
I'm surprised they let you play, actually.
No, they
How would they know?
didn't
Yeah.
know. No, when I
Okay.
told the people at NAMI that I was doing that, they went,
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
That
now
was
3
not a
years
good
have
idea.
gone by.
So 3 years have gone
by.
by. And oh, by the way, and this is very important to know, Admiral Peck, who was the attorney that supported me at that physical evaluation board, as we were flying back up from San Diego, he said, "Hey, Jason, I'm teaching a class at the Naval War College. Would you like to would you like to take that class?" And I said, "Sure, sir." It was joint military operations. He said, "Okay." He said, what was your GPA in?" No, first he said, your rank is just a lieutenant JG," and he goes, "It's too low to be in my class." He said, "But I'm the instructor." He said, "What was your GPA in college?" And I said, "Oh, around a 3.0." And he goes, "Yeah, that's low." He goes, "But I'm the instructor." so he so he says, "Come by my house, pick up the books. We started a couple of weeks ago, but you can just join." And now this is postgraduate education, the Naval War College. All of the students in the class were officers, all higher ranks than me, with a lot more experience than I had. And so during those 3 years that the Navy was saying I needed to be stashed, I went to and graduated from the Naval War College. That to me is kind of important. What am I being held for 3 years for? A brain injury.
Mm.
And during that time, I attend and graduate from the Naval War College, postgraduate education. Scratch your head on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So anyway, once they said, okay, the 3 years had passed, and I showed up at NAMI with the letter in hand, and I said, "Here I am, test me." They gave me a test. I passed. And I learned this from one of the students, one of my classmates in the Naval War College class at the time, which was at Pensacola. He said that I would come in or they would give me a test. I would pass the test, and then they would go back to the drawing board, scratching their head, like, "Oh, what do we do now?" And they give me another test. This is when one of the employees, one of the doctors at NAMI told me that. So they gave me a test. I passed. They scratch their head, give me another test.
Fail.
What's that?
It's like they wanted you to fail. They kept
Oh,
coming.
yes.
Yeah, they wanted you
NAMI.
to fail.
NAMI is the kingpin of naval aviation. For a little Lieutenant JG, then I received a promotion to lieutenant, but for a little lieutenant to fight NAMI, that just doesn't happen. So they gave me all these tests, and they even at one point gave me 3 tests at a time, and I'll describe that. One of the tests was a portable EEG that I wore for 24 hours. While wearing that, they had me go into the altitude chamber, sitting across from the chief neurosurgeon, and he's wearing an oxygen mask. I'm not. And they had me do high-speed short-term memory math computations at sea level, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 18,000 feet. And if you want a quick example of the high-speed short-term math computations, do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. They had a recording that would read numbers. And my task was to add the last 2 numbers that were said on the recording. Let that sink in. I need to add the last two numbers stated on the recording. So for example, they would say 2, 3. I would say 5. Then they would say 4. What would be the next thing I would say?
9.
Wow.
No,
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 because
no, 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 no.
4 and the 3.
Exactly. 3 and 4 is 7.
7.
So I would have to say 7. Then they
That
would
is
say
harder than you
2.
think.
And so I needed to add the 4 and the 2 to, so it was
Okay.
it was challenging. And then
The
doing it at
computation, yes.
sea level 5,000, 10,000,
Yeah.
15,000, 18,000 feet. Well, to really mess with them, I did better at 18,000 feet than I did at sea level. So they really scratched their
You
head.
passed.
Yes, I passed. I passed all the tests they gave me, all of them. And then we got together in the auditorium at NAMI. It was like it looked like a movie theater. On the stage was a microphone and a commander to summarize my case. In front of the stage was a table with the commanding officer and all the department heads. And in the auditorium was me and about 75 flight surgeons. So my case was summarized, and then the commanding officer says, Lieutenant Ford, do you have anything to add? I said, yes, sir. I stood up there and basically pled with them for 5 to 7 minutes, and then they escorted me out while they deliberated for about 2.5 hours. And they invited me back in to hear their decision. And their decision was that they were recommending a waiver to BUPERS, the Bureau of Personnel, which is the Pentagon. They were recommending a waiver for me. I thought, well, that's great. Their recommendation, however, was, here's where it gets a little technical. Their recommendation was a service group 3, which meant only cleared to fly, only medically cleared to fly multi-piloted aircraft. What was the reason for that? Given my head injury, I stood a slightly higher than average % chance of having a seizure.
Mm.
Knock on wood, I have never had a seizure.
Mhm.
But then I heard that the Pentagon, BUPERS, the Bureau of Personnel at the Pentagon, was not going to accept NAMI's recommendation. So I was wearing my SDBs, my service dress blue uniform. I took an airline flight up to Washington, D.C., and marched in there, and I found the detailer who was going to be giving me the information, a lieutenant. I looked him straight in the eye. I figured he read the medical report and said, there's no way this guy could be able to do anything. So I looked him straight in the eye, gave him a firm handshake, and I said, I'm Lieutenant Ford, and I'd like to know, what do you need to see me do? Do you need to see me stand on one foot, close both eyes, touch my nose? And what do you need to see? And he said, we're downsizing after the first Desert Storm War. And I said, thanks for your opinion. Who's your boss? And he said, Commander Jascott. I said, where can I find him? He said, I'll introduce him to you. He walks me over to this commander who's sitting at a desk. He says exactly the same thing. I say, sir, thank you for your opinion. May I respectfully ask, who's your boss? Captain Cash. Where can I find him? That office over there. So I go over to his office. He's not there, but I get his business card, and I call him when I get back to Milton, Florida, Whiting Field. I call him, and he says, he has a thick Southern drawl, and he says, son, I'm just see, I have it all memorized now. He says, son, I'm just a stupid pilot. They tell me I can't grant the waiver under Service Group 3. But if I receive a waiver recommendation under Service Group 1 or Service Group 2, I'll cut you orders to maritime flight training. That's a quote. What does it mean? Service
You
Group
did the
1
voice
was,
well too.
thank you. Service Group 1 was what I was before the injury. That's medically cleared to fly anything, anywhere, anytime. Service Group 3 is medically cleared to fly only multi-piloted aircraft. And he said he can't give me the waiver under Service Group 3. But what's Service Group 2? Service Group 2 says medically cleared to fly anything, single or multi-piloted, but not aboard a ship.
No.
Well, I thought, do we have anything single piloted, or well, do we have anything multi-piloted that flies aboard the ship? And I thought, no, just like in flight training, there are 3 routes or 3 paths to take: jets, props, propeller-driven airplanes, or helicopters. And the props are like C-130s and P-3s. Those are all multi-piloted. So if I'm flying props, if I'm in the prop pipeline, I'm not going to be aboard the carrier. So I call the commanding officer of NAMI and I say, sir, this is Lieutenant Ford, and the reason I'm calling is I'm asking that you change the recommendation of the Special Board of Flight Surgeons from Service Group 3 to Service Group 2. If you do that, you will achieve your goal that I fly only multi-piloted aircraft. You'll achieve the goal of the Pentagon that it's not Service Group 3, and you'll achieve my goal that I get to serve my country and fly for the Navy, and you hurt no one in any way. He said, write me a letter, I'll take it under consideration. So I write him a very well-written letter with the assistance of Admiral Peck, who was the instructor at the Naval War College and an attorney. And I hand deliver it to the commanding officer of NAMI's office. 1 week later, I get his response in a letter mailed to me. No, I'm not going to change the recommendation of the entire Special Board of Flight Surgeons based on one letter. So I thought, okay, do I want to keep fighting this? At first I thought, okay, what if I write you 9 more letters, But then I thought, no, that's stupid. I thought to go up the chain of command further would be from the CNO, the Chief of Naval Operations. To go up from there would be the Secretary of the Navy. Up from there, Secretary of Defense. Next would be Vice President and President. And I decided not to do that. So I'm leaving the political things out of it.
And this is the thing. This is the thing, though. He's still smiling. Like, I know there are some people who literally would not be here today. I know this after telling that story, Jason. Like, I don't even think you get it. I really don't. I've heard this story so many times as we worked on your book a lot, and you tell the story, and you never, unless you have it buried somewhere deep, it had to cut you. But you don't, you refuse. You're like, that's okay. I'm going to do something else.
Well, you don't let anyone say no.
Amazing. It is so amazing.
But the point is, I'm so glad that I'm alive. I almost wasn't.
Going to say, go back to the part where, okay, you've served in the Navy for how long?
7 years.
7 years. Is that your total amount of time in the Navy?
Yes.
Okay. So you've been in the Navy 7 years. You've gone through something where you lived and you technically should not have. That's something that literally kills 99% of the time, what you went through. And then the thing that I'm picking up on is when you go to one door and they say no, then you just keep going. Start at the top of the ladder, work your way down if you have to. That's where I go. You need to go to the top of the ladder. You're going to tell me no? No. Then I'm grabbing somebody with me, and that's what you did. You have to understand no's not the option. The option is for yourself. It may be no for someone else, but for yourself, if you want to obtain something or make a difference because someone else is going to come in after Jason, or something else is going to happen, Jason, after you or within the Navy, but I completely wipe that out and say in the world, something else is going to happen to someone. And it doesn't need to happen again. And not only that, your inspiring story needs to inspire others who just want to quit and give up. And I have to tell you, today was one of those days for me. Today was a day where I won't ever quit, but I had been stepping back some about fighting in regards to the law, about trying to get people to just pay attention. And I was like, you know what? You left the politics out too. I'm leaving it out too. But I'm telling you, for everybody out there, all people, all children, everyone, this is a very important subject. The subject that was going to take your life wasn't you fighting in the military. You were actively gracious, wanting to serve your country, wanting to be put in positions in the military that most people won't even step up for. You don't even have a 1% out there that wants to sign up and do their duty in the military. So the fact that you did that's a big deal. You're in law school, and then you go through all of this within trying to come back from what happened to you. The last step you're at, that no, I want to know now what, because I'm not comparing me to you, but I will say it in regards to these people that drive and these things that happen in the world for anybody's, whatever theirs is, whatever it is that you want to see change. I know what mine is, and it's a law about people that drive. And you keep getting the no, and you keep getting the shutdown. What do you do? Like, you got to know again there at the end, but what did you do?
At the end, okay. Well, first, let me say something that you referred to that is another important part of this for people to understand. When I had the choice, do I stay in law school or do I join the Navy? What do I do? I asked a buddy of mine in law school, and I was in California at Santa Clara University Law School. I asked one of my buddies there, what do you think I should do? And he said, dude, you know you're 2.5 years away from making six figures. How much do they pay you in the Navy? And I thought, I have no idea. It's not even in my mind. I never even considered that. And he goes, that's ridiculous to ask, what should you do? He was saying, you need to stay in law school, dude. So then I asked my mom, what do you think I should do, Mom? And she said, oh dear, you're going to have to make this decision. So I told you what my decision was, take a leave of absence from law school in case I don't make it in the Navy, and then just do the Navy. Because my priority has never been money. Never, ever, ever. If your priority is money, then you're missing the point. Quality of life, enjoying every day. You live 365 days a year. How many of those are you really enjoying? Are you in a job that sucks, but it makes a lot of money? What's the quality of the days that you're living? And those they can get shut off any day. So would you like to spend the majority of your life, your days alive, doing something that sucks, but you're making a lot of money? Or would you rather do something that you enjoy? And yeah, you may, if you're doing something that you enjoy and you take pride in, and if one of your goals is to help other people, which is mine, then it's rewarding for you, maybe not financially. And to answer your next question is, so what did you do then? Well, when I got out of the Navy, I had a couple of little random jobs, and then I rediscovered aviation. My mom called, the details are, I was in San Francisco. My mom called me and said, Jason, do you know who the Tuskegee Airmen are? I said, yes, Mom. They were the first black fighter squadron in World War II. They were really, really good. They flew P-40s and then P-51s. And she said, wow, that's right. She said, did you know that the Tuskegee Airmen are at Oakland International Airport right now, and they're offering airplane rides to people and children? I said, no. I said, I'll be right up. And I had my son in a little baby seat. He was a little baby. And so I took my son up to my mom's house, picked her up, drove out to Oakland, and we get in this Mooney, in an airplane, a Mooney, and I wore my flight jacket. And so, this is after the injury and after my fighting the Navy and all that we've already talked about. And I had a private pilot's license from before I joined the Navy. We get in this airplane, this Mooney, the big black pilot, in the left front seat. I'm in the right front seat. My mom and my son are in the back seats. The guy, I'm talking with the pilot, and we get taxied out onto the runway. He brings up the power. We're going down the runway, and he turns to me and he says, "You've got the controls." I looked at him and I said, "I've got the controls." He goes, "If you want them." I looked down, I'm like, well, yes. Well, most of the instruments were on his side. So I'm looking like, and I go, at what air, it's VR, rotation speed, the speed at which you're going to rotate the plane to start the climb. I go, what's VR in this? And he goes, about now. I said, okay. So I flew the airplane all around. And as I'm on the approach, coming back in, approaching the airport to land, my mom taps the guy on the shoulder and he says, you are going to land this, right? And he goes, No, Jason looks like he's doing just fine. So my mom's like, okay, tightens her seatbelt, tightens the seatbelt for the stroller that my son's in. And maybe beginner's luck from all this time, whatever, but I just had this perfect flare and like chirp, chirp, this perfect landing, ease the nose down. I taxi and I go, now I know what I'm here to do. So I start flying. I take flying lessons in the civilian world. I get my commercial multi-engine instrument pilot's licenses because I have no disability. I left the military with no disability. And I get a job as soon as I get the commercial license. I get a job flying traffic watch. Yeah, flying a little Cessna 172 around the San Francisco Bay Area, 6 hours a day, 3 hour flight in the morning and a 3 hour flight in the evening. And I had a low number of hours because I'd only been through flight training in the Navy and I had my little private pilot's license before that, so I didn't have enough hours for an airline. And I thought, well, I'll do this until I have enough hours for an airline. When I had 1,500 hours of flight time, I got hired by a regional airline, but I made some stupid mistakes. So I don't know. I chose an airplane that had autopilot, which I had never flown, and it had a glass cockpit, which I had never flown. So I chose that airplane because it had leather seats. It had a 5-bladed prop. So my advice to people is don't make that mistake. When you're doing something, think about it from the old school philosophy. Start at the bottom and then you can work your way up. So if I had thought that way, I would have chosen an airplane that didn't have autopilot and it didn't have glass cockpit, and then it would have gone very differently. But I made that mistake. So I washed out of that. And as you probably know, to be a successful, at least fighter pilot, you have to be very confident. You have to have high self-confidence. And being washed out of a training program for this regional airline, that shot my self-confidence. So friends had always told me that I would make a good teacher. So, and they told me about a Troops to Teachers program. So I looked up Troops to Teachers program. It said, where would you like to live? I wanted to live somewhere other than San Francisco. North Carolina was one of the 4 states that my wife at the time and I chose. So boom, within whatever it was, 2 days, 3 days, I got offered a job teaching in Thomasville, North Carolina. So I packed up the car, drove out here, and that's where I am now. Well, not in Thomasville, I'm in Clemens. So I taught Spanish for 2 years. Then that program got canceled, which didn't make sense to me. But I then started teaching English as a second language, and I taught that for a total of 17 years. And then, as I told you at the beginning, I saw the level of respect of the students and my authority as a teacher to manage the behavior of the students in my class go down. So I thought, use an aviation term, I'm pulling chocks.
Pulling chocks.
Yeah.
An aviation term.
Such
like
resilience.
Pulling chocks.
Yeah. Pulling chocks.
It means, do you know what it means?
You're out. Yeah, I'm out. And so teaching in itself, I've always said that is something that that's just a no for me. Literally, I did do it for a little while when I had to, because of what happened in our country, and I just had to do it for my kid in 5th grade. I don't want to be a teacher. I've never wanted to be a teacher. I respect those who are. It's a hell of a job, but you can't pay me to go be a teacher. You have to be a certain kind of person in order to be a teacher. And nowadays, I'm sorry, the respect level that I think that you're talking about is just not there. We're not taking care of our people the right way. And so I know why you pulled. Literally, I understand it. Yeah, I do understand it. Actually, I have someone in my family who just did the same thing. But I have mad respect for you between all of your story, between the beginning, and we're talking about law school, which is not an easy thing at all. That's actually not easy to accomplish. and then every piece of yours isn't. And then the have you ever thought about going and working on this is where I ended up, so I'm curious about you. Have you ever thought about going and working on some of these laws to change just as a person, not as any side or label, but just as a person with your story, and working on these different laws that we need to do to change in our country? Have you ever done that?
I have not thought about that. What I have thought about doing is, since I'm about service and about helping people, I have thought about, I just haven't done it yet. I'm doing this, but I've thought about going to VA hospitals and speaking and telling people, basically the message of, don't give up. Don't
Mm-hmm.
focus on getting a higher disability rating in order to get more money, but then you're not going to be able to do things. No, you can do things. Life is more important than money. So have the goals of being able to accomplish things that you want other than money. Money is, anyway. So
The
I
root of
have,
the evil.
that has, right. That has been a goal of mine. And so I really appreciate being here so that I can communicate this message to, a
To
larger group of
everyone.
people.
And I like to remind everybody, we are not just for veterans. We're about people. It's about people out there in the community, leading through a tribe to try to reach the community as a whole and let them know about the true stories that are out there with other individuals, and that, yes, it is possible. And the truth, I like to say, truth be told time. That's my thing. Truth be told, Jason, you have a story and you don't take no, that I need you to walk into a couple places or write a letter and say, no, that's not okay. We need to fix the transportation laws so that this does not happen any longer. We have a situation even nationally in our transportation laws that I've uncovered that would blow you away. We'd have to be here too long to let everyone else hear about
Well,
it. So we'll have to
then,
do it back channels.
yes. Well, then what we should do, Tracy, is we should talk off air and
Yeah.
share, our goals
Mhm.
and desires. And I would be happy to work
Yes.
with you on that. I'd
I
be happy to.
definitely have needed someone who literally does not take no, who is a veteran, so you understand both sides and you understand the respect that should be given to someone who's no longer here, that maybe it's not being given. And now you can be that voice and you can stand there, but they can't. And so a party of one can now become more than just a mom that's mad that her kid is not here. No, I'm mad for all of you out there that you don't understand what I've uncovered for all of us, for everybody. This is not about me. This is about what can happen to everyone every 30 seconds in our lives. Every 30 seconds, a decision you make or someone else makes will change your whole life.
Yep.
Every single day, every 30 seconds. You may not be here. They may do something that takes your life out. Every 30 seconds, every one of us, that can happen to. That is wrong. That has to be fixed. And the fact that you can fight the way that you have fought through many, many obstacles, your health, no, I'm going to join. Number one, there was that in the beginning. There was, okay, you're still waiting to join. And then you did join. And then going and flying and getting your own attorney. I'm like, you mentioned Top Gun, Lori. I'm like, yeah, I see that. Walk in, knock on the doors, break down the doors, tell the truth. Here I am. You can't say no to it. You cannot say no to something that is the truth staring you in the face. How do you say no to that? You can't.
Well, that's another message that I say to people is tell the truth. No matter how painful it is, if you're lying to people, then it's hard to keep track of, well, what did I say to that person? What did I say to that person? Then, people realize you're lying and then they don't trust you at all. And so that's terrible. Just tell the truth. You may have done something wrong and you may get into trouble or maybe painful or whatever. Doesn't matter. Face that. Tell the truth. And people respect you so much more if they know that you tell the truth.
And I
Yeah,
always tell
that's-
Jason that he has more. There is like a huge something coming for him. Like he has some giant task that God is like has for him. And I
He could
know we're
actually
reading a
change a
book.
law already just
Right.
by getting on the level I'm at where I've been and then stepping in. He could actually break a door
Right.
open and say, let's have a talk here.
Yeah,
I
I'd
already
be
know
happy
that.
to.
And so people meet for different reasons. I do believe in that. There's a reason. I don't know how Lori does it, but she does this to me every single time. Literally, she finds someone and I haven't even talked to her today. So I'm like, you have no clue. But today, Jason, it's not even just for the audience. It's one of those days where I'm so sick and tired of everybody nitpicking on the stupidest things.
Yep.
Like, you need to realize that life's so short, you may not be living
That's right.
later. You need to realize there's people going through things where they've lost their person, and grace is something that we've got to get. We've got to have patience or remove yourself. I say that. You don't like it, just remove yourself, or in this case, turn the channel. You don't like it, go somewhere else. But I have a mission to accomplish, and I promise you, with every breath in me, that it will happen because I've uncovered too much in our transportation laws through the national level on accident. But I don't know if you call it an accident. You call it I'll be
An
damned
incident.
if you're going to tell me no. I'm the mother, and I don't give a damn who you are. I don't care if
Right.
you're the president. I really just don't care.
We agree completely on that. I don't care. In fact, I give respect to janitors in schools. I give as much respect to a janitor as I do to the principal. And I give as
Yeah.
much respect to the janitor as I would the president of the United States. They're all people, and we
Yeah.
all deserve respect.
We do.
Give me respect, I'll give you respect. I don't care
Right.
what your job is or what you do.
Yes. And I have someone, we're getting a lot of thank you for your strength and your honorable service and sharing your story. Jeremy's mentioning that he'll be attending the National Disabled American Veterans Convention next month to call things out. Jeremy, I see you there. He tunes in and out of our show here at Patriots Inside the Wire. There's a convention for the disabled American veterans. You're probably familiar with that, Jason?
Yeah, a little bit. In fact, I now am disabled after fighting my disability down to zero, and then becoming a teacher. I whatever it was, my third or fourth year teaching, I had a bad dizzy spell, and so I got examined and was given a 50% disability. And then after that, I was examined more, and they bumped it up to 100%. So I now have the 100% disability, which they had given me initially, and then I had fought down to zero. So yes, I'm a disabled veteran, and I would love to do it. I would love to do anything to help.
Definitely. I will. I'll try to make connections, but the way I see you is you're like you're a lone ranger who has such a story that's you're here, and you're the exact person that not just me, everybody needs to see, because sometimes seeing, like you pulled out the picture of the car, sometimes seeing something, people will understand when they can see it. We can sit here and talk all day long till we're blue in the face, and some people still won't understand the importance of the subject in regards to that lethal weapon being a vehicle, and how that monstrosity of an individual behind that wheel will literally impact everybody here will be impacted in some way. I'm not saying everyone's going to have someone die. I can tell you in my lifetime, someone in every generation has been killed by a vehicle. So I'm like, all right, I have to go dig into this and see what the hell is going on here. We've got to do something about it. And to be honest with you, Jason, it was just a mom who was like, I'll be damned if this is going to happen. I will not. I cannot have a kid who can survive our war and be in Iraq and fight it for our country and do everything that's happened, and then have idiots do what they, I can't get into his story. And yes, his obituary's out there. It's a lie, but that's on purpose. I work with the military. I'm not working against them. I always work with them. I appreciate them. I thank those who serve and have served, and that's at the front of my heart. I am lucky because I have had people within the military that had been there before or are still there, and some that are still serving with their families who 100% stepped up for me too. You mentioned you had to go to someone who was like, yeah, I'm going to write this letter, and am I going to be kicked out? Well, I went to someone and said, I need a letter that talks about who he is. Who is Sergeant Two-Step? They did it because it was the right thing to do. And that colonel, he stood on the back of, oh yeah, you need to know who this person is as a person. And you need to understand, because what everyone needs to understand is in active duty, there's line of duty investigations all the time. This is how it works. Military, you don't get to tell them how anything works. Now, you can go in there when they say no. I did. You did, Jason. I say you do go in. You need to learn how to work with them, and you learn the process of going in, go on that. Okay, that door didn't work. We're going to the next door. So that journey, Jason, I don't even know. The reason I zero in on that is because I'm thinking, wait a minute. I just found where you could easily pick up a phone and make a huge difference in something that is happening. And I'll have to talk to you on back channels, but everyone knows about the Two-Step Act if they know me. It's the number 2-Step Act. It's out there. It's not hard. Our show, Two-Step Tribe, you tune in for that one that we do, the Sergeant Two-Step Foundation. Jason, you have accidentally fell into a situation where, although we can't have his face, we have Jason. Now, Jason can go in and say, she's not lying. This is an issue. It's the truth. It is a weapon. These vehicles and the people and what's happening behind it, you've got to tighten up these laws. And here they are. Boom, 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 boom. My effectiveness as the mom is hitting walls. It's like, okay, I can only go so far. Now I need to grab onto someone who can actually say, wait a minute. This is someone who survived, but he should not have survived. And you can speak the language, and you're a little more intimidating, to be quite honest.
Intimidating.
He knows all the things and all the people and all the places.
Well, there's that too. But someone that's gonna go and you don't like the no either. You do need someone that's not only that, but here you are standing, here I am. I see exactly a way that we could change the world with one law, and everyone else may not understand this yet. They need to just stand by and understand that this affects everybody. If you're on the road, walking, driving, anything you're doing, and every one of us do it, to uncover what is not there is a shock, and it should be there. So, Jason, I'm glad you're here. I don't
Tracy,
like hearing.
Well, let me say something, Tracy. I have been praying for many years now to find out, why am I here? What God, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And if this is a huge mission that he wants me to do, I'm there for you. And this may be something so large that I can actually contribute to. I'm there.
Yes,
And
the voice.
you know what? This is so funny, Jason, because every time we talk about your book, and what do I always say to you? I'm like, I don't understand the ending of the book. I feel like there's a piece of it we're still missing. And I've said that to you many times, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's something, you can't finish the book because you're not done. And this is totally so weird, but it's so funny. Y'all are talking about cars, and your last name's Ford.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah.
I mean, irrelevant, but not, right? Like maybe God's been telling you all this time, right?
Well, do you want to
gonna
know one
be-
of the middle names that I have for the other person is Lane. If you really want to go there, Lori. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, that's one of the middle names.
Hmm.
I am Southern, so yes, there's always two middle names. So
And well, you know, Tracy, it cracks me up. I was smiling, so it cracks me up because two-step. I used to dance swing. I now do still. I dance swing, but I just I was in intermediate flight training in Texas, flying jets, and moved into into the house. And I had these two other housemates, and one of them was going out with his girlfriend, and it was a Friday night or whatever. And I said, "Oh, where are you guys going?" And they said, "Oh, we're going to this it's a dance." And they said, they said, "You want to come? Want to join us? It's dinner and a dance." And I said, "I don't want to be a third wheel." And they said, "No, no, 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 no. We're going to be meeting with a whole bunch of other people." I said, "Okay." So I go. And sitting at this sitting at this big long table with all these people, I don't know any of them, and I hear the band behind me, and there's a dance floor back there, and I hear this that in the mood. I love to dance to that, so I stand up and I go, "Oh, who wants to dance?" And this lady sitting down the other end, you know, pretty far down the table, she stands up and she says, "I'll dance with you." So I take her out on, I don't know her, and I say, "Hi, I'm Jason Ford, Ensign Jason Ford." And she says, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Don McAnally, Commander McAnally." And I go, "Commander?" She goes, "Relax, Don." I go, "Okay, ma'am." So I'm swinging her. We have a great time. We dance quite a few songs. But then she says, "Hey, would you be willing to help me teach dancing?" And I was like, "Okay." And she said, "Do you know how to two-step?" This is why
Oh
I'm
my
telling you this story.
God.
And I said, "No." She said, "Go learn how to two-step." And then, because I teach swing and
I
two-step.
cannot even.
So I went out to these honky tonk places and I watched people two-step and I figured it out. And so I kind of
that's
learned
for
how to
people.
two-step. And so that's what I'm an intermediate flight and SNA, student naval aviator, in intermediate flight training, and I'm teaching two-step and swing. It was just
Yeah.
so fun.
I love it. Yeah, yeah. There's a whole personal thing there. So his name is Two Step. Our Two Step Tribe is our show with our music. Two Step itself is actually for that's what we that's my son's nickname, and he did get it from us, the memories of teaching him to two step, hoping he would go out and meet a nice individual, and that was my intention with two step. But two step now is not just him, but it is a whole tribe, a whole movement of bringing back awareness and community to the people.
Good.
So, yes. So I'm glad that you've been on, Jason. Jason Ford is joining us now. Tell me the name of your book. We did not mention your book.
Well, I am still trying to figure out the name, but as I had written and told part of the story to Lori, the last thing that I heard said to me before I was hit by the drunk driver was, I mean, I didn't hear it said to me. I said it. My housemate got out and was standing next to the right front tire. It says 2 o'clock in the morning. I pulled off the side of the road in Southeast Texas, 2 o'clock in the morning. And he gets out and he's standing next to the right rear tire. I get out and I walk around the car. I'm standing next to the right front tire. We're both faced away from the car. And the last thing I said was, "Don't piss on my tire, man." And then smack, lights out.
Wow. Cannot
So,
believe it. A
so,
repeat offender.
so Lori suggested, "Hey, that would be a good title."
Oh,
Don't
do
piss
you
on my
want him to
tire, man.
name the book that?
Don't piss on my tire, man. Every man would read that, right?
Well, you want to reach a big audience, so we may want to talk about it on the back channels, but I think it should definitely be a quote in there for sure.
I don't know
definitely
about a
have-
title, but definitely.
Yeah, I don't know if I put it. That's up to you. To be honest, you can do it whatever you
And
want.
as I said, I hadn't really decided on a title yet. I would rather kind of write the whole book and find out what that leads to as a title, because
Yeah.
But
there are
maybe now we
fun.
know where the ending's coming from.
Right,
There is
maybe.
no end.
Well, not an ending, but there's
No, but
more to his story. There's just
This
more
may
to
be,
the
yeah, there's a
story.
lot more to the story, but this may be, Tracy, this may be kind of the culmination. Like, where does this end up? Started out with all the things that you've already
Yeah,
heard.
this is not a
and where does it-
coincidence here.
Right, where
mean-
does it end up? Now I'm working with you on trying to change the laws that are inadequate to keep people alive.
Right. And to get those people off the roads,
Right.
most definitely, who shouldn't even be there in the first place.
What
That's
a
a
great
definite-
show.
Yeah, yeah. And Jason, so I thank you. I thank you
Seriously.
for everything, not just your service, but your courage, your heart. Your heart's there. The respect you have and what you do just by coming in. I can tell you made a difference in me today. I know that. And I know that anyone out there listening, if you can't be inspired by this, I don't know what to say, but your story is one that should inspire us all. Some of you who can't get up, I understand that. Like I'm getting that from, I understand that when you physically cannot and you need help. And yes, it's okay to ask for help. It is okay. That is what you should do. You should ask for help. Just like I just admitted, look, I've hit walls. I'm hitting walls. It's going to take somebody else to stand there and go, hey, pay attention. Like, all right, wake up.
This is where Jason needs to do the shout out for Lexi. We do a shout out to
We
Lexi
always
every
do
show,
that to Lexi,
Jason.
and we have to end with a song
She's
because we're on the
listening.
radio.
Lexi is
Lexi-
listening.
Lexi is so wonderful. Lexi, I love you. You're so wonderful.
She is adorable.
Thank you,
out
Lexi.
there. We love her. Lexi, we love you.
Hey, Lexi.
Yeah, I have a lot of Lexi in here. Lexi is Lori's daughter from the Tree of Valor, just to make sure that everyone knows that. Lori, as you know, we end with a song. We're on the radio, so I've got to get in a couple here. You know some of them. You actually don't know a lot of the new ones. I do have one called Whisper to Jesus, or
Oh, I love that song. Yes, I love that song. Do that one. That's my favorite.
I was going to go to what you always have me go to.
No,
was
I
gonna
love
mention
that
other
one.
people's. I have a full catalog in here of others.
I want that one because that's so relevant to Jason's
Okay,
story.
You don't want me to grab a veteran or Uncle Rhino. You want that one.
Well, if you want to do two, that one was good. That
Okay.
one, and then the
Okay,
Raise Your Glass.
Jason.
The one that the favorite one that I like of Uncle Rhino's is great. The Best of Us.
Oh, Best of Us is
love
yeah,
that.
listen, everybody out there, Uncle Rhino, go check him out. This song is called Best of Us. You need to hear this song. Check that out. Go check out Two Step Tribe, the number 2. Two Step Tribe on YouTube. Find it. You can find it on Instagram, but it's a website too. PatriotsInsideTheWire.com. Two Step Tribe. That's the number 2. Don't try to spell that. twosteptribe.com, and you will find everything. But Two Step Tribe has its own YouTube as well, full of music. Music is very therapeutic. It's a universal language, Jason. So music is
I
where
completely
I fell.
agree.
I fell
Completely
over
agree
in
with
there. That's why I decided I'm going back to music. That's a therapeutic move right there. So I will listen to Lori. But yes, Best of Us by Uncle Rhino. Without a doubt, we all need to check that out. So here we are. I'm going to listen to Lori, and we're going to play these and see what Jason thinks, and then we'll close out the show. Here's the first one that Lori likes. Lori, what's the name of it?
The Whisper to Jesus.
Okay, here we go. And this is for Lexi and Lori and Jason, actually. Here you go.
For Jason.
Jesus, do you hear me as I whisper and look up to the sky? The clouds drift slowly, but they don't reply. I'm searching for a flicker, a spark in the gray, something to convince me they found their way. Please, Jesus, can you send me a sign? A nod from above, Jesus, tell me where to begin with whispers to you. Jesus, send me a sign. Jesus, please. There's a silence that feels longer today. Shadows dance where the sun used to play. I'm holding on tight, but the rope's wearing thin. Hoping for a whisper, cutting through the din. Whispers. Is everything as it should be? I don't know. The world spins fast, but my own feels slow. I'm trying to catch the rhythm of your tune, but I'm lost between the sun and the moon. Please, Jesus, can you send me a sign? A nod from above to say we're fine. My heart feels heavy like a storm rolling in. Please, Jesus, tell me where to begin with whispers to you. Jesus, send me a sign. Jesus, please. Maybe your answers are written in the rain, in the quiet moments that ease my pain. And when the world seems to crumble apart, let me feel the warmth of your steady heart. Thank you, Jesus, for the whisper. Maybe your answers are written in the rain, in the quiet moments that ease my pain. And when the world seems to crumble apart, let me feel the warmth of your steady heart. Thank you, Jesus, for the whispers.
We're here on Patriots Inside the Wire tonight with Jason Ford, a veteran who has served, and an incredible, remarkable story as well. Here with us is Jason Ford. Don't
It's such a bummer. You can't hear the songs.
I couldn't hear the songs, but now I can hear you.
Yes, and so I don't think that I'm gonna play the next one if he can't hear it. It's a setting. I don't know
No,
if you're on your
it's okay.
phone.
No, Tracy. It's important that everybody else hear it. It's not that important
well,
that I hear.
It's Lori.
You
If
can go back
you
and listen to it.
Okay,
can-
I'll go
he
back and
can,
listen
yeah.
to it. Yeah.
You definitely can. And then Best of Us is Uncle Rhino. There is a new mix out there. I would encourage everyone to look that up and definitely check that out with Uncle Rhino. And that's RYANO, Uncle Rhino, for Best of Us, the song. And listen, if you want to go find music in general, go to the website, patriotsinsidethewire.com. We have a full playlist of all of our tribe. You're going to find a variety of music. So depending on what you like, trust me, that playlist that we have rolling through the station, it has good music on it. I'm going to close us out here at Patriots Inside the Wire. Jason Ford, thank you so much for being you, being here. And you are what we call a miracle. You are also someone who gives energy into other people. And the no, there's no such thing as no. So Lori, again, on the Tree of Valor, thank you too. We're going to close up with Patriots Inside the Wire. Jason Ford, it has been great having you on. There are so many pieces. I'd love to have you back to discuss more about some things we're working on in regards to
Tracy and Lori, it's been my honor to be here. Thank you very much for having me on, and I would love to, help in any way that I can. So please contact me because
Definitely.
She will.
ready
We
and willing.
share. Yes, I will. I definitely will. And I appreciate you for being here and your time and your family. So, Jason, it is unique again to have those who step up on that line to say, I'm here to serve. Now you've got your freedoms. Now you've got freedom of speech. Now you've got these rights. Okay, use them, but I'm not going to take no. So I'm going to use my freedom of speech and we're going to make something happen with it. We're actually going to make a difference each day, we hope, in each other's lives, whether it's me or someone else out there. Keep going, keep pushing. You can do it. Don't let them tell you you can't. That word does not exist in the vocabulary. We appreciate and love and respect all of you. And thank you for tuning in to Patriots Inside the Wire. And have a lovely, lovely, lovely time. Please reach out at patriotsinsidethewire.com. Thank you, Jason Ford, for joining us. I'm going to tune out right here. Thank you so much.